Howdy, boys. Today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the ideas around toxic masculinity, why men are dealing with the problems that they're dealing with, and my personal opinion as to how retention kind of plays into these issues and how we can get past them. And if you feel very overwhelmed by these issues, how you can take hold of your life a little bit better. So, here's the big picture. Men, women. There's many issues in between both men and women. Many of these issues reside in the fact that men aren't doing enough, or that women aren't doing enough, or that men are too toxic, they're engaging in toxic masculinity, or women are too feminist and they're engaging in toxic femininity, and the correlated decisions with that sort of motive or that sort of mindset goes against natural law, or goes against the will of a man, or goes against the will of the woman, and in many ways creates chaos and at a large scale, especially when advertised at the way it is, creates big disconnect between both men and women, and it makes things hard. It gives preconceived notions about how life and relationships should look like, as well as the kinds of people that we should even be interacting with. Like, for example, if you go into a situation where you're interacting with a woman who is liberal, or is coming off as being associated with a particular kind of group, or associated with a particular kind of family style or whatever, it immediately turns you off to her or whatnot. Or the situation where men will find themselves in the workplace with women, and a lot of the things about how men and women have disagreements as to how much each should make and what that looks like for a relationship long term. So I just want to talk about a few things. So when women are labeling men and complaining about men, there's a couple things. Most of these women are not doing that. It's a very small group. Okay, so when you hear toxic masculinity come into the forefront of the conversation, most of the time that sort of motive, that sort of push is not from like the average woman, the kind of woman that you're going to meet, kind of woman that you're going to be around. No, it's not. It's going to come from these elites, or this sort of motive that's pushed by Lord knows what. Whoever's pushing that motive is not the mass majority of women. Most women aren't engaging or thinking about toxic masculinity. What they're thinking really about is themselves, more so than a guy per se, or the world of a man's existence. And so what they do is they just think about their feelings. They're very emotional, and maybe very hysterical, and so they light off these phrases like toxic masculinity. Realistically, if that woman met the right kind of guy, she would not be talking about any of that stuff. She would marry him and everything would be good, and she would not be constantly acting out in this sort of way. Many people are dealing with family things as well, like damaged relationships from birth that causes them to talk about men this way, like they have bad relationships from growing up. So you got to realize that this whole talk about you shouldn't do this, you should do this, whatever. If you wear freaking this kind of cologne, you're dumb, or if you vote this kind of way, you're toxic or whatever. Like, throw all that out of the way. Okay, the way you should be interacting with women is on a basis of sexual desire. Okay, that is plain cut it. Period. We don't need to be thinking about anything else. Period. We do not need to be thinking about anything else. I just want to stress that. There's a couple associated factors with how we should interact with women on the basis of sexual desire, but at the end of the day, that's really it. You want to be 110% locked in to the fact that you are not trying to get anything out of women except for the natural ways that admiration of a woman take you down, right? And as pursuing her, you have a result of actions, right? And those can be, whatever. That can be engagement with them in any particular way, sex, whatever, marriage, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the natural course that is taken through your desire and pursuit of this woman is really what you're after. You're not after a thing or an action, or you throw all that out of the window. And then, number one, most importantly, you got to be on retention. But the big conversation amongst men and women is that women are propped up on this stage, right? And men are degraded, and women want men who, even in the midst of being degraded and them being propped up, are higher than them in a life, in the status of life. They want them to be making more. They want them to be better known, better looking, tall, fitting a demographic that is essentially the smallest amongst all men. And so what we need to understand is, if we don't fall into that category, which we aren't, but if we don't fall into that category, then we need to focus on what is essential for us to properly engage with life. First things first, you can cut out most of that BS, right? About how women want this, want this, want this. It's like, no, they don't. Listen, women know about 30% of what they want in a guy. The other 70% they don't know about, genuinely. Because the 30% is attributes, actions, things, okay? Those are all vanity, right? The 70% is the cohesion of all those things into a person. And then they want that person to be a genuinely amazing individual who takes that 30% and it's a part of them, right? They want a high value man. It's a dynamic sense of attraction. It's not a definite stagnant, he has to have this. The women who are like that are very shallow, and like I said, taking men in vain. It's not for the relationship, it's for a purpose. And most women, if not all, are for the relationship. They do not want the purpose to just be fulfilled. I mean, that's just sickening to even think about. So, like the purpose of, getting money or whatever, who knows, gold digging, right? But, so you can cut out most of the BS if you're not in the 20%, right? Or the top 10%, right? By just thinking on the basis that you need to be retained, acting properly in sexual desire, and then from acting from there, you will go into a place where you can attract women in a different sort of way, even if you may not have, 100K in the bank. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot more associated with what attraction really means. And so when it comes to women wanting this stuff, right? If men were to properly act in such a way on their sexual desire, well, then the basis of relationships between men and women would be actually pretty cordial, and I think tame to a degree. Like, everything would be much more friendly. Everything would be much more, nice, because they would look at the relationships as more worth it to a degree, and men would be able to respect men on a basis of power, rather than just like, what do you bring to the table right here, right now? Who are you to me right here, right now? No, it would be more of a basis of respect on who you are than just what you're doing right now in the moment. And then, so with that being said, with all that in mind, this feminine concept of women being propped up, that is due to the system in which we are placed in, right? So the system of schooling, as well as the stressing of that you need a degree, that you need education, and the importance upon that nowadays, has brought women to be a very good participant for that system. Men can't seem to be as good of a participant statistically, and as a result, that causes the pay difference, as well as the employment difference amongst men and women that is morphing into today's world. So it used to be that women couldn't find a job, they were underpaid. Now it's more so that, women are creeping ever so slightly into the basis that men aren't getting educated anymore, and therefore more women are finding themselves in the workplace making higher value or getting paid more in higher value jobs, and men are finding themselves not there as great in a degree. So when we see this disconnect, right? When we see this value interruption, right? Because all of this is about vibration. This is all about vibrational energy. This is all about value. Women seem to be, on the basis of an economic system, which we all operate on the basis of a value system, which we seem to think we understand, seem to be the more valuable one, seem to be the one that we're after, seem to be that the man needs this woman because he is, as a result, less valuable. Like, it's not that he is less valuable, it's just that due to the system, due to the circumstances, his value suffers, right? And therefore he needs this woman because her value is ever increasing. I mean, her pay gap, the statistics are in her favor, genuinely. And so when we're seeing the moving of energy going, is that the value of money, right, is propping up women, and men are losing that, therefore needing that, and therefore needing women. And that's not the case, right? Because there's a lot of other things associated with it than just money, right? Most of these men out here are gooners, like, genuinely. Like, they're not retaining. All gooners, not retaining. You're retaining. If you're retaining, you're such a Chad. You're doing so much better than most of these guys. Hey, killing it, period. Genuinely. But actually, it's true. Like, we can't deny that fact. But some of these guys who aren't, right, genuinely are not having that hard of a time finding a girl, right? The basis of a man's needs, right, are money, food, shelter, water, whatever, and on top of that, a good experience with life, right? And that includes having a woman or having access to women. Like, that is a need. This is not a conversation as to how do you want to live your life? What do you want to do? No, it's like, what do you need? And what you need is that access to women. And, like, you need to have a feeling that you are attractive. Like, because if you don't feel that way, then you aren't free to choose. And if you aren't free to choose, then you're going to suffer as a result of slavery. You are a slave to this desire, so much so that you're throwing away an ability, or you're throwing away a need in life. It's like saying, instead of having a shelter, like having a house, I'm just gonna go smoke crack on the streets because that's my exchange rate. I'll give up living in a house, but so I can go smoke crack on the streets. Like, it's like you're giving up your ability to be with a woman so that you can masturbate and watch pornography. Like, this is what we're doing here. And so the disconnect between this created toxic masculinity and guys need to be this way is a result of women being given the spotlight in a bad system. Okay, that's the big one, right? That's something that we can't always control. And at the same equal level, men being a gooner. Being a gooner. That's bad. Don't be a gooner. It's bad. And it creates the world that we're living in, right? So you're assisting to the cause. Not only are you're now assisting the women that are being propped up. Okay. So there are many ways to think about it, right? But the relationships between men and women are mainly, right, the men's fault, because if they changed, because we have the capacity to change at such a great level inside of ourselves that we could change the world if we did that properly. But since we don't, and we're still slaves to this pornography, we're still slaves to this mentality and this brokenness, as a result, we have this weird ass result of, women being propped up by an economic system, women being the whatever, I don't know, best in school, and men not being able to find jobs and whatnot, whatever. Like, that's the result of this. And so if you're out there dealing with this sort of mentality, like, I don't know if I can get a woman, I don't know what's happening, like, I feel like the system plays way too much into how my life's going to work out, what my future is going to look like. Here's the thing. If you are genuinely concerned about whether you are going to get a woman or not, stop that thought right there. Go on retention. I prescribe 100 days, over 3 months, and see what happens. See if your mood changes in any capacity, and if you get a woman along the way, look back at your old self and see why you believed that way. And you're going to realize very quickly, it was because the world was telling me that, and I believed them because I was a gooner. And then if you're struggling with the fact that, maybe it's because you don't make enough, or maybe it's because the system is favoring it, or you feel like the world is kind of against you on that, realize this. You, when you're on retention, are not playing the same game that the world is playing. You are not playing for the same result that the world is playing. They're playing for your destruction. You're playing for your success, your purification. You're playing for everything about your life. And it's all for the goodness of it. Genuinely, 100%. They're playing for the destruction of your life. You're not playing the same game. You're not playing for the same results. You're playing on a basis of spiritual warfare. They're playing on a basis of monetary grab. They just want to see the numbers go up. They don't care about your soul. But as a result, your soul suffers. You care about your soul. You don't care about the numbers as much. But as a result, their numbers suffer. And that's what happens. And so when we truly hop on retention, when we truly step away from the matrix and stop listening to all this BS about the relationships between men and women are suffering, divorce rates are higher than they ever been. I mean, even that statistic is bullshit. Look it up. It's not true. It's not 100%. It's not 60%. All these marriages aren't ending in divorce. People are being lied to, genuinely. I mean, you have been lied to about the basic fundamental practice of retention in life. Like, think about how easy this is. Think about how obvious this is. Think about how many people would benefit from this. Genuinely. Think about how the world would benefit from this. And they're keeping it from you, and any guy can try this. Almost any guy. I mean, any guy can try this. Genuinely. That's why. Fight the power, break control, and in that, destroy the lies. It's not worth it. Genuinely. And when we start to see this silver lining that, our lives can be better when we're on retention, hold this true. I'm not going to break. Hold this true in your heart. You're not going to break, and you're not going to believe the lies. You got to make a change at some point in time in your life. And if you believe these lies and you're still having a hard time with it, go on and see what retention has to offer you. See what it says. See what answers you find in your mind or in your meditation along the way. You're probably going to find great insight, genuinely. But if you have any more questions for me, that's all I have for today. Leave them down in the comments right now. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Day 34 on this new streak. I'm feeling really good, feeling very clear-headed. I feel like there's a lot of things I have to talk about. And I think with retention being just such an amazing practice for my life right now, I've been hitting the gym. Everything has kind of been just falling into place, and it's made the practice 10 times more beneficial for me. There's been so much on my mind that I think I have come to a good understanding on, and I want to share that with you guys over the next couple weeks. We just hit 200 subs, and it's insane. Our last video is like popping off. It's like at 3.2k views, almost 150 likes. I love it. I genuinely love it. Hopefully, we can get that up to, let's see if we can get 500. Maybe if I keep posting videos consistently, we can do it. But Genuinely. I appreciate you guys. I really, really, really hope you take the words that I said today into consideration. And please, if you think that there's anybody who could genuinely benefit from hearing what I'm talking about, send it their way. There's people that need to hear stuff like this because they cannot see the silver lining. They cannot see the other side. Okay? But, you know, if you think someone would benefit from hearing this, send it to them. Spread the word of retention. Do your best you can possibly do. I'm trying to get to 100 days on this new streak. And we're probably going to keep going after that, but 100 days is the goal as of right now. So I appreciate y'all. Thank you for sticking with me through this. And have a good day.